means is the natural adoption rate of estate planning from Gen X to boomers, millennials to Gen X. So we're seeing 2 to 3 million people at a minimum per year creating these documents, majority of them offline with attorneys. And remember, a majority of these attorneys, only 160,000 estate planning attorneys in this country. They typically at the low end of the spectrum have usually.
Welcome to AFO Wealth Management Forward, a podcast about finance, accounting, technology, and entrepreneurship. We apply our decades' worth of experience and insight into what makes businesses work, so we can help others grow both personally and professionally. In this ever-evolving marketplace, we help accounting firms and financial advisors grow their practice through the adoption of holistic wealth management services. Learn from industry leaders and subject matter experts to unlock the secrets of their success. A podcast that shows people and companies the transformative power of technology so they don't fear it, but instead harness it. Don't fight the robots, team up with them. And here are your hosts, Rory Henry, Director of Business Development, and CEO Rob Santos of Arrowroot Family Office.
Hey, Rob. Today we're joined by the CEO and co-founder of Trust and Will, Cody Barbo. Trust and Will is transforming the way families plan for their future through estate planning that is simple and affordable. They've helped over 200,000 families start their estate plan using their online technology. Cody, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Cody, huge fan. We're obviously in Southern California. I think you guys were in San Diego.
Yep. Right. Yeah. And I'm born and raised SoCal. I grew up in Orange County and been in San Diego now for almost half my life. So
yeah, I'm City of Orange, Cody.
Oh yeah. Huntington Beach. Huntington Beach is where I grew up.
All right.
So it's always been wonderful. We have a lot of our client base at Arrowroot Family Office is software, tech professionals, and things like that. And so it's always wonderful to be able to have a founder from our California ecosystem in the Southern California come on, and just congratulations on all the growth and the funding and the press that you guys have had. We were sharing right before the show, I was a user of Trust and Will, when you guys first came out, gave it a shot, and it was very user friendly, much less expensive than a lot of other solutions out there. Wonderful tool. So congratulations on that.
Appreciate it.
So, kicking off here, could you just provide our audience with a quick background on yourself and let us know about what Trust and Will does and your kind of product offering?
Yeah, happy to. So I'm born and raised Southern California and made my way down to San Diego in 2007 for school and have only known entrepreneurship since. I've been, it's my third company in the last 10 years, second venture-backed business. And when we started Trust and Will, it wasn't I knew I wanted to go into estate planning. I'm not an attorney by background, although that was the first hire that we made at the company. But I was going through a personal life achievement, which was a good one. I was getting married at the end of 2017. And when I sat down with my wife, we talked about taxes, we talked about finances, we talked about life insurance. And I had no benefits at the time. She had all the benefits from her hospital. So I was like, hey, what benefits am I going to get? And ultimately, the will came up is one of these conversations that we wanted to explore. And for the two of us, we've managed our entire financial lives online for the most part for the last decade. And when it came to estate planning, it didn't really feel like online was the easy place to start. Naturally, you go to an attorney, you spend weeks, if not months with them, kind of crafting a set of documents on really important decisions. And most people set this up usually once they get married, have kids, buy a home. So it seemed like the right thing to we start talking about. And then you get that sticker shock. You think you're like, this is right for me. I'm ready for it. And then that attorney's like, well, it's going to cost $3,000 to $5,000. It's like typical going right here. And some trust and estate attorneys, very rightfully so, charge $10,000, $15,000 for much more complex estates for kind of that ultra high net worth segment. But we're in our late 20s, not a lot of assets, no kids yet at this time. And I was like, why do we need something so expensive and completely offline? Like I really was kind of looking for that TurboTax-like experience, something that was modern, intuitive, affordable, but not this one and done transaction, something that I could, ongoing updates as my family grows, which it now has. We have a daughter now who's 15 months. We have a dog, I have crypto, all these digital assets became top of mind over the last couple of years and how those get accommodated in the estate plan. And I wasn't alone. My co-founders, Dean and Brian, kind of same life stage. We're in our 30s, married with kids now. And we started looking at the numbers in late 2017. We're like 40% of the population has this, but they haven't touched their documents in 5, 10, 15 years since their kids were born. And then for the 60% of the population that doesn't have this, like why? What is the real reason why they have not done this? It's not always cost, because you have a lot of very smart, successful, educated people that know the importance of an estate plan, but they haven't gotten around to doing it because it might be education. There might be a gap. It might be the procrastination that's probably playing the biggest factor. And it's just inconvenient. If you have kids, you have a job, both working parents, you got to take time off from work, especially pre-pandemic. You got to take time off, find a sitter, go spend hours and all this time at the office of the attorney. And what are they doing? They're handing you an intake form on a clipboard. They're handing it over to the paralegal. The paralegal's drafting it up in their estate planning software. And you're getting effectively the same set of documents. As long as you don't have complexity, you're getting a relatively same set of documents with state-specific language. Why are you paying 10 times as much for it? And maybe spending 10 times the time on filling it out and getting it done to the finish line. So outside of just the creation of the estate plan, there's also the funding of the trust, the retitling of assets. This is a whole nother process that we'll tackle on the call today. But we really kind of just took a step back, we're like, why do we even want to think about pursuing this? And we talked amongst our friends that are all starting their families, buying their first home. We talked to our own parents about this, and for better or for worse, if they had it or if they dealt with a really uncomfortable situation having lost one of their parents, our grandparents, and what that rift could have caused in the family and the nightmare that is probate. And it really felt like the right thing to do, that we got to go do this. If no one else is doing it with the vision that we have of building a brand, great product, an inclusive price point, and a really high touch customer support experience, if not them, then we have to make it happen. So that's kind of the backstory of Trust Them All.
Great. Yeah. And traditionally, as you just mentioned, it is a daunting task here, Cody, and there's uncomfortable topics that need to be brought up during the estate planning process, where that's end of life wishes, health care directives. Can you guys kind of mention how you've alleviated, some of these concerns through your technology?
Yeah, so the most important thing is that we make estate planning approachable. So no one really knows what's involved in an estate plan. I think generally consumers, they know what a will is through family or maybe pop culture. You have movies like Knives Out, where people are named or threatened to leave out of the will. That's kind of the grandma leaves you out of the story that we hear growing up. But I think a lot of people don't know what a trust is. It's just have this preconceived notion you have to be wealthy to have a trust. And honestly, if you're in a populated state, you own a home, you absolutely should have a trust, avoid probate and all the protections that come with it. But it's better to have any estate plan. And we effectively unbundle the estate plan. So customers come to our website, and before saying, well, do you want a trust? They're like, I don't know what a trust is. We actually ask them, what matters to you? Do you want to make sure someone's there to look after your kids? You want to make sure someone can make healthcare decisions for you? You can designate how your assets are split up. Who do you not want included in the estate plan? Your final wishes, burial, cremation, or sustainable death options. So we have these kind of 10 icons that you click on that get you started with the process. And then from there, as Rob's gone through it, probably 30 to 45 minutes of your time, you're going through and filling out your information, very much like a TurboTax-like flow, information about your family, who looks after your kids, who looks after your pets, cataloging all of your assets. So real estate, financial investment accounts, business interest, crypto or digital assets, even more traditional collectibles. And then you also have your health directives. Who can make decisions on your behalf if you're incapacitated? Do you want to be resuscitated if you're in a coma? All the way through final wishes, the song you want played at your celebration of life. We see some really fun song choices. But our job is to get people through that process, not as fast as possible, but the right time and the right intention. So we have a ton of educational content, possibly one of the largest content libraries on the internet now around estate planning, from very simple to complex estate planning. That's all for free. We have a support team that's available 7 days per week, so you can chat with them, you can book a phone call. And in several states, we now offer attorney support. So customers, whether they have complexity or not, can actually schedule a call with one of our attorneys, talk through advanced planning, tax implications, or just review the estate plan, which is what most end up doing. And I love the fact that we've built this process with the full test drive in mind. You get to the end, that's when we ask you to pay after you've reviewed every decision with your spouse, with your advisor, maybe with your CPA. And then once you've paid, you get the documents. We have fulfillment, so people get their documents by the end of the week with signature, notary, and witness instructions, and then a trust funding guide for the customers that choose the trust option. And our job is not that that's the one and done end of our relationship. Thanks, Rob. We appreciate your business. No. We want people to always have that digital connection to Trust Them All. For the loved ones that are named in the documents, so if you're a trustee, what does it mean to be a trustee? What does it mean to be an executor, beneficiary, healthcare agent? Create an educational opportunity for those people. And then a new big feature we just rolled out is shared access to the document. So you used to have to lug around your physical estate plan to your loved ones, to your advisor, CPA. Rob's grabbing his probably as we speak here. I got mine on my bookshelf behind me. And we're moving towards this digital future of estate planning, where these physical documents will naturally go away as all industries will go digital. And it creates a more secure and transparent experience too. We make sure that when you're sharing access to a loved one or to your financial advisor, or whatever service professional, that they're creating an account with Trust and Will. And you, the creator of that estate plan, have full control. You can sever the permissions for them to not see it again, especially if you're making changes, as people should make changes as their family grows or complexities or uncomfortable relationships change in the family dynamic. And also for assets change incredibly over a lifetime. And so many assets are never accounted for in the trust, especially. Therefore, they're subject to probate. And we want to make sure that our trust customers don't end up in probate because they paid for it, but also we try and make it painless. There's just a lot of opportunity that we'll unpack further, but hopefully that kind of clarified some points.
Yeah, I can absolutely verify, because we deal with a lot of end customers. We also have a lot of accountants that listen to the show and are constantly chasing clients to be able to execute documents or collect documents and put them all together. And just the visual of the stack of papers for an estate plan, that the amount of paper that was kind of provided to clients from the estate attorneys, like homework, it was like a final. And the awkwardness of having to go through those pages, or you get them mixed up, or sometimes doing them in front of the attorney and all of that. So the experience of being able to have that on a digitally guided kind of solution that you could do at your own pace, and you have access to people to ask questions on your chat or your phone, I found that to be very, very useful.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, look at the innovation we've seen in financial planning and tax planning over the last 2 decades, going from offline to almost entirely online for most clients, for the everyday family at least. And that's the transition. We joke internally, we call it we're going from Netflix, sending DVDs to people's homes, to the streaming experience, because it almost is like consumers expect this whole experience to be digital. And then we have to break them the bad news of like, hey, regulatory requirements are really old school. You have to go to a bank or a notary, or they come to your home to execute these documents. And we've been pretty much on the cutting edge of what the future looks like. So in states like Nevada, Florida, where we were the first company in US history to do an electronic will, you do full digital execution. So video call with a notary, digital signature, digital notary stamp, digital witness signatures, identity verification. You have to show your ID to the notary, and that session is recorded as a video and then stored in the cloud along with the documents. We've seen 6 states go active with e-will bills. Most recently, 2 of those are uniform language. So we worked with the Uniform Law Commission to pass the e-will Act in fall of 2019. And that e-will bill or e-will Act, that uniform language is now what's gonna proposed rollout to many, many more states in this year and the years to come. And it's inevitable. You look at most uniform laws, you'll see a majority of states adopted, and it just seems so obvious that this would go digital. It's just how quickly can we get there is what we're trying to push from a lobbying effort on our end.
No, that totally makes sense. And you've touched on a few things that we talk about a lot on the podcast. We're in the midst of the greatest transfer of wealth in history. We've had a bunch of folks. One of our latest folks on the podcast called it the silver tsunami, which I hadn't heard of before, but it's a wonderful thing.
I'm gonna start using that. I like that term.
Silver tsunami. So,
I changed my Twitter handle.
And so, what are some stats on, could you share some kind of general stats on the number of estate plans done by baby boomers and the general population as a whole? And, what's your advice to both ends of that spectrum, the older folks and to the younger folks that are going through this transition?
Yeah, absolutely. So the great wealth transfer, I mean, we're seeing over $1 trillion in assets every year in this country passed between generations. That number is going to go up substantially in the years to come. I'll do a quick pause. I apologize. My daughter's 15 months. She's upstairs. So if you hear a little squeal, I don't have a pig at home. It's a little cute toddler.
No worries.
But I hope the listeners probably have kids too.
It's okay. I've got one at home. I've got a 6-month-old at home myself and a 3-year-old. So
yeah, it's being a parent in a pandemic is the best, but also challenging at the same time. So with the demographics, we looked at this early on, right? How do we make a business case for who is the right customer segment to target when we started Trust and Will? And we really have built a product for everyone. Our customers range from 18 to 92, and estate planning effectively applies to everyone. You could be Jeff Bezos rich or an everyday person with no wealth, and you'll have to experience this at some point in your life, or your family will have to deal with it. So we see about a 40% adoption with boomers, 50% with Gen X, and right now about 20 to 30% with millennials. About half of us are 30 to 40. We're having kids. We're starting our families, building our wealth for the first time. So we look at that gap between generations as the natural adoption rate of estate planning from Gen X to boomers, millennials to Gen X. So we're seeing 2 to 3 million people at a minimum per year creating these documents, majority of them offline with attorneys. And remember, a majority of these attorneys, only 160,000 estate planning attorneys in this country. They typically, at the low end of the spectrum, have usually a $1,500 fee for trust. At the high end, 15,000 plus for very complex estates. And $1,500 is still not affordable for the everyday family, right? So when we started the company, like, we have to build a product that's inclusive for all. It's why we called it trustandwill.com. The brand is very warm and inviting, very high touch customer support. And while we lean into the positive, we're not naive to realize a lot of people do come to us. It's not that they started their family or bought a home. They are dealing with a parent or a family member that is dying. They need to step in and be able to make decisions, or they've already dealt with a death and they don't want to deal with that mess, or they have their own family deal with that mess they dealt with a loved one. So they're coming to us, and we have to be mindful of the conversations. We're very kind of delicate. We've had our customer success team go through grieving training, so they're making sure they're using the right language and not upsetting people beyond maybe the loss of a loved one. But I'd say the demographics we see convert the best: 30 to 55, setting this up for the first time. And then anyone that's 55 plus is coming to us for one of 3 reasons. 1, to still create it for the first time. 2, to update their estate plan. So we do trust restatements, where they can replace their will. It's pretty straightforward. Or they are a caregiver. And the number of caregivers in this country is at 50 million. It's going to double over the next decade. So thinking through that caregiver experience is really important, because we really are concerned with the offline model today. There's a lot of fraud and elder abuse that takes place. And if we can create more identity verification, connecting all of the digital assets with all of the institutions, as simple as your checking and savings account, but almost every financial account has a digital connection through Plaid or a PFM product now. How do we make that digital connection? And then also the service professionals, the financial advisor, the CPA, the insurance professional, all coming in, the estate planning attorney, and having some touch point with the estate plan, so that as things are changing in real time, family dynamics, financial dynamics, tax implications, this combined effort of identity verification of the people creating it, those named in the documents, the assets, and then the service professionals. It's not any guarantees that we can't prevent fraud or elder abuse, but we're trying to minimize it as much as possible by creating this single source of truth with the digital estate plan, and having that record, that audit trail of when it's created, when changes are made, when assets are changed. And I am very hopeful that we'll kind of solve a lot of the problems and pains that the industry sees today.
And you just spoke about tax implications here, Cody. Can you kind of touch on the Biden tax law changes and talk a little bit about the proposed reduction in the tax exemption for estates and gifts, and then the increase in the rates and what that all means?
Yeah, it's definitely, I'd say for a small sliver of our customer base, those would say 5 million in assets plus, they're kind of inquiring like, hey, do I need to come in and change my estate plan if something is to pass here? And we've put out a couple articles on the Learn Center. Just to give context, our in-house head of legal, Patrick Hicks, 10-year trust and estate attorney, worked with everyday families to families with net worths exceeding $500 million. So Patrick is our go-to expert, and the content, I'll defer to the content on our Learn Center maybe to best answer this, but we're paying attention to it. And I remember when the Secure Act came through, what was that, in late 2018 into 2019, we had made some changes to the documentation. So our legal team in-house has a quarterly review process for all 50 states that we're live in. So that if there's any changes to tax law, if there's any changes at all that have anything to do with your finances, insurance, whatever it may be, we're making sure that our customers are notified well in advance to really encourage them to come back and make these updates. And that's the frustration that I have with the offline experience today. And it's not to discredit the attorneys really, is that most consumers, even successful, well-educated consumers, they don't necessarily know if it's going to have an impact or not. So they don't make a change, and it could completely invalidate their estate plan. And if you didn't work with that really high-end boutique estate planning firm that did the creative maneuverings that regardless of what changes you're set up or your kids are set up for success, it can make a really negative impact on that plan. So this is my kind of like dancing around your question as the non-tax expert, but I hopefully this makes sense in how we're at least thinking about it internally, and some of those kind of quality assurance checks that our legal team has in place to make sure that our customers' documents are always up to date or they're notified with the appropriate timing.
Absolutely. And, I know you've set up some channel partnerships with some life insurance providers and are kind of moving to start working with some other financial advisors or trusted, advisors like potential CPAs. Our wealth management forward program is teaching accounting firms how to implement holistic wealth management services, like getting involved in your client's estate conversation. Can you kind of talk to some of that value proposition for some of the, other than just the consumer, some of those other trusted advisors that you guys potentially work with?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've had a great relationship with my wealth manager for a long time now. And the conversation that we had early on was, how do people today bring up estate planning, or how do you bring up estate planning? And the question that I was really kind of thrown off, or the question I asked that I was thrown off by is, well, what percentage of your clients has an estate plan? He didn't know. And when we early last year, before the pandemic even started, we started talking to a lot more financial advisors. Hey, what percentage of your clients has an estate plan? No one knew this answer. We started talking to financial institutions. What percentage of your clients has an estate plan? No one knew the answer. And this really sparked the interest for us to build a product offering for FAs or any financial advisor designation to help bring them into the client estate planning experience. So we launched Trust and Wealth for Advisors last year as a free product. We have over 2,500 advisors that are using this at both big firms and RIAs. And in fact, we even seen some ancillaries, because if you're a CPA or if you're an insurance professional or State Farm agent, whatever the title may be, you effectively could use the product for the same benefit. But it's a free product, so free to sign up, and you're by default passing along a 10% discount to your clients. And what it does first and foremost for the advisor or the CPA is it provides them the proper education. It pulls in content from our Learn Center, from again that basic content to that much more advanced content, educating them first and foremost, and then it creates a really streamlined way to invite their clients into the Trust and Wealth experience. So that dashboard that the advisor has shows, have their clients signed up, have the clients started, what's their progress, have they finished, have they funded the trust, what product did they choose, and most importantly for a service professional, it gives them the ability to follow up. So if they're going to have a kid, they're going to move states, maybe have a liquidity event, or they're dealing with an inheritance, right, as we speak, that these are all ways that you can get ahead of it from a planning perspective. You can request access to their digital estate plan. They can grant you that access themselves. And what we're hoping to do is unlock this kind of treasure trove of assets and a conversation that doesn't often take place, and helping them with more advanced planning, whether it's advanced financial planning, tax strategy, whatever it may be. And the success of this has been fantastic. We're an approved vendor with Schwab, Fidelity, Fifth Third Bank, Northwestern Mutual. Those two, specifically Fifth Third and Northwestern, ended up investing in the company. And we have a small team of 6 that are here in San Diego and parts of the Midwest that are basically onboarding advisors with a very personalized touch, making sure that they're set up for success and that ultimately their clients are going to have a good experience. And I'd say that the biggest surprise is how many advisors and service professionals don't have an estate plan despite them preaching it. So Rob, like yourself, like we get them as a customer, and it's like, no matter what I say or our advisor team says, that wins them over to give them the confidence to then onboard their clients. And it's been a really incredible channel for us that we hope to continue to grow.
Yeah, great here, Cody. I think that's a good spot for us to end. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think we covered a lot of great information for our audience. What's the best way to get in touch with Trust and Will?
Yeah, so best way to get in touch with us is trustandwill.com. You can connect with me directly, Cody Barbo on LinkedIn or Twitter. I'm very, very active on those channels. And more so, my biggest ask to anybody listening to this day, Trust and Will does not have to be your estate planning partner. Go get a estate plan for yourself. Go get your clients to set up an estate plan. I don't care who you do it with, an attorney, LegalZoom, whoever it may be, but get them to start the process or get yourself started with the process. It's such an important set of documents. It doesn't have to be scary and intimidating. You just have to fight that procrastination bug, and it's a hard one.
For sure, for sure. We'll put that information in the show notes, Cody. Thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to staying in touch and hopefully having you again on in the future.
Thanks again, Cody. Good luck.
Appreciate it.
All opinions expressed by Rob Santos and Rory Henry on this website podcast interview are solely their opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Arrowroot Family Office LLC or their parent company or affiliates, and may have been previously disseminated on television, radio, internet, or another medium. You should not treat any opinion expressed by anyone as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or follow a particular strategy, but only as an expression of their opinions. Past performance is not indicative of future results.